that the most important part of any audio system is the speakers. This is the Klipsch speaker here. It's been a well-respected name for over 25 years. You're getting real value for your money here.
Oh?
These are horn-loaded both in the mid-range and the high frequency, so they provide for the greatest amount of efficiency. I think you'll hear that you can get that full sound you want just by adding a set of these speakers.
Won't I need a bigger amplifier?
No, not at all. Let me show you. A cleaner sound for the background music while in your dining room, and you'll get less distortion than with your present system when you turn up the gain for higher sound levels.
That's incredible.
Welcome, friends, family, and fans. We are very happy to be back with the Klipsch Listening Lounge, now hosted by the Klipsch Museum of Audio History. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got an action-packed episode today. I'm going to get right to it. We've got some incredible guests and some surprise guests as well. We're going to be talking about some amazing things that the museum's doing. There'll be a whole museum discussion about what's happening with the Klipsch Museum of Audio History and what's happening with that. Also, we're going to be talking about a great contest that we have to give away a pair of the new La Scala LS6s. So that's going to be an incredible contest that we're doing. And then also we'll be talking a little bit about those new products that are coming out. And then last but not least, we'll be talking about the Watermelon Fest that's going to be happening in Hope, Arkansas. So let's get right to it. And we'll have a little conversation with some of my guests that we're going to be adding today. My name is Matt Summers. I am the Senior Creative Director and Keeper of the Brand for Klipsch, and also a proud board member for the Klipsch Museum of Audio History. So I mentioned that the museum is going to be sponsoring and supporting this live stream moving forward. But we have sort of a nice little cross-section of both Klipsch employees and museum executives and members, and then some other special guests. So thank you so much for joining us. My first guest that we are adding today is Chief Bonehead himself, Mr. Roy Delgado, who's going to be talking about new products. Going to be talking about all the stuff that Roy talks about and the reasons that you guys love to listen to him, because he is the one with the dirt on the new stuff. We're going to be adding also our Klipsch legend, a longtime employee. Mark and I have worked together for over 30 years. Mark Cassavant.
Bless your heart, Matt.
Thanks, Roy. And then our fourth musketeer, if you will, is Klipsch Heritage Ambassador, Mr. Mike Dyer, who started before most of us and then finished just last year into his retirement and is now officially the Klipsch Heritage Ambassador. So welcome, Roy, Mike, and Mark.
Hey, guys. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, I think Mike was there. I think Mike was there when the first guy used the horn, but he put it to his ear.
He's well preserved. Is that what the smell is?
We made speakers out of stone. Well, thank you guys for joining. We have a lot to talk about. The first thing I want to mention is that the museum is having an incredible contest right now. So basically, the idea is you become a sponsor of the museum at a price of $25 to start with, and then there are price breaks if you want additional chances. Then you automatically get a chance to win the beta version, the Roy's test version of the La Scala LS6s that have yet to be released. We haven't seen anything about them. A few people have heard them. We'll hear their impressions of them, but they are not to be debuted until the beginning of next year, right, Roy?
Yes, sir. Hey, Matt, what are you drinking, bro?
I am drinking sparkling water in a metal can.
What? What? Oh this is a listening lounge, right? Right.
No
Mark?
more red wine. My gout
Eh.
says otherwise.
Oh, you have gout. Well, you know what you can drink when you have gout is vodka. I'm
Is
gonna send you a
vodka?
bottle. I'll
Good
send
to
you
know.
a bottle. You
What do
know
you
why?
drink?
Because my dad has gout, and he
Ah,
drinks vodka.
what are you drinking,
Mark, what
Roy?
are you drinking,
Yeah,
Mark?
Roy's got a Coors.
Well, in honor of the listening lounges, it's been a while, but I think during the pandemic we all indulged a little more than we planned on. But I do have.
And we continue the tradition.
That's right, Zombie Dust by Three Floyd. So
Nice. And Mr. Dyer, the Rook.
Well, I'm a Michigan boy, and I just got back from a little mini Michigan vacation. So, of course, I've got my Detroit Red Wings cup filled with a little of Texas vodka with a little mixer. So, a little vodka and squirt.
Wait,
Nice.
don't tell me. Don't tell me. Cheeto, no Vito, no Tito's, right?
I don't want Cheetos vodka. No.
So let me add real quick that we're celebrating and we're going to keep this fun and a little loose, but we encourage all of our friends that are joining to partake in your favorite refreshment as well. Join the fun. We encourage that.
Yeah, get everybody a little lubricated before we get into the deep questions.
And I do have to throw a little shout out. If my wife is watching, which I don't know, but today is our wedding anniversary. And at 7:20, which would be in 14 minutes, that's our official anniversary wedding moment. So if Theta's watching, thanks for putting up with me.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
how about that?
Theta, treasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Theta, from all of us. Keep an eye on him. Okay.
Well, let's get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about this contest. We're going to mention it several times. But one of the things we want to do is have people be able to support the museum. But basically, there's going to be a link that's posted in the chats, and if you click on it, you get a chance to win these La Scalas. It starts at $25, and then goes all the way up to a $250 level. All of the sponsor levels are entered in the giveaway, but you get more sponsorship opportunities the more you spend on the sponsorship. The cool thing about this AL6 pair is that you'll have the pre-production beta in advance of the official release date, but Chief Bonehead Roy Delgado himself will supervise the building of this pair from start to finish. So we're getting close to our cutoff. Once we hit 800 entries, they're going to announce a cutoff date. So we'd like to pull that across the line during the show. So let's see if we can get people to click on the link and provide some sponsorship to the museum and possibly win the very first pair of La Scala AL6s.
Well, you know that, Matt. These betas might have a couple of dents on the side of the LS where I kicked it, where I didn't get it right. Okay, bro.
Is that how you're fixing them? You're just kicking them?
Yeah. You know the old
it's the old Fonzie
TV kind of thing. You know.
Yeah.
Well, if the lab rats were going to be raffled off here, it would be teardrops on the tops of them from the first time I listened to them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And you guys did get a chance to hear these things, and
Mike, and I gotta tell you, Mike, your teardrops are real salty, bro. I had to wipe it off. Okay,
you're supposed to wipe them off, not lick them.
What's going on after hours over there? Well, I wanted to open this up a little bit because now that the museum is hosting the live stream, the listening lounge for us, and it's kind of carrying the torch that Klipsch, the loudspeaker company, started. We want to be able to include sort of all sorts of things in these live streams. We want to be able to talk about what the museum's doing, what exciting products that we're coming out with, and then what products that Klipsch is coming out with that extend the legacy of Paul W. Klipsch. Wanted to talk a little bit about what the museum is. If you guys don't, if the listeners don't know what the museum does, the Klipsch Museum of Audio History is located in Hope, Arkansas. It is a brick and mortar museum, and it's focused on the history of Klipsch and PWK. The mission is STEM plus the arts, so it really is STEAM that we're pushing through the teachings of PWK. It is one of the only brick and mortar museums in the United States focused on audio, hi-fi, and loudspeakers. and it was started by Paul W. Klipsch himself over 50 years ago. So we have you can tour the museum by appointments. There are officially 4 buildings on the museum campus. There's the Museum of Audio History itself. There's an education center. There's a welcome center that has an amazing amount of information and also demonstratable products as well. And then there is the Paul W. Klipsch Auditorium, which is one of the last standing places that Elvis Presley played. So that's a very interesting thing to know about that. But we've got all sorts of content coming out. And sorry for the run on, but I want to get this all out before we really dig into the Klipsch horn and La Scala, the new stuff. But one of the things that we do with the museum is we preserve and protect the legacy. And our curator is Mr. Jim Hunter, long-time Klipsch employee.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Hunter.
He knows everything there is to know about Klipsch, backwards and forwards, and he'll be able to. It's
and
like
upside down and downside up.
Exactly. It's like drinking from a fire hose with him. But
affectionately known as Father Time.
Exactly. I've been calling him Treebeard. Treebeard.
Well, you know, he has a coffee cup that I always admired because I believed it for a while. It's the coffee cup says older than dirt. I'm like, really, Hunter?
It's true. So a couple of the other things that the museum does that you may not know is we provide education classes. We provide research for everything that Klipsch, the loudspeaker company, shows about the history of Klipsch comes from the research that comes from the museum. So if we're talking about a specific, in this instance, the updates to the Klipsch horn and the La Scala, we will go back into the history of those speakers and know where we came from. So it's a great way for us to keep connected to the past. And then the other thing that the museum does that I think is really important is it does a great amount of support to Klipsch dealers, providing them with assets and education and the things that they need to be able to sell Klipsch products, especially the heritage products that's still handmade in Hope, Arkansas, right across the street from the Klipsch Museum of Audio History. So we're going to encourage everybody to like and subscribe. The museum has a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. On the Facebook page right now, we are serializing the Klipsch horn book that I've written with Jim Hunter, museum curator. 1 chapter a week, you get to learn about the history of the Klipsch horn. And then on the YouTube channel, we are doing a full museum tour. So every week there is just a little bit more of the museum that Jim talks about, the things that Paul Klipsch collected, the reasons why we are accessioning new items for the museum and artifacts. So there's a lot going on with the museum. But with this contest, it will really support the museum. If you can click on the link and make a supporting donation to the museum, and then you get entered for a chance to win. So thank you.
You know, Matt, those museum tour videos, Hickey and Hunter. Oh my gosh, they did an awesome job, brother. Awesome job.
They're doing a fantastic job with that.
I mean,
we learn a new factoid every week.
Well, you know what's cool though is when you were talking about the fire hydrant. You know, in just a short amount of time, there's a lot of information. So I like the way it's being broken up because there's a lot of stuff in that 1-2 minute clip. I mean, and if you put that together, you would have to divide it into episodes because there's just so much stuff there.
Yeah, when they first did the video, it was probably, I don't know, an hour long, and we were like, it's too much to absorb. There's so much that happened at the dawn of hi-fi that all happened all at once with that spark, and keeping track of all of that is very interesting, and I'm sure it keeps Jim very busy.
Well, you know, I'm assuming that everybody that's watching this is at least a Klipsch nut and appreciates Mr. K for what he did acoustically with the Klipsch horn and all the products that followed. But what a lot of people don't know is that his brilliance was well beyond acoustics and loudspeakers and that sort of thing. You know, Mr. K has patents in geophysics and ballistics and all sorts of things. And you know, if you make a list of probably the top 10 or 15 electrical scientists in the world, including Tesla and Edison and all of these mega cats, Mr. K is right up there, probably in the top handful of these guys. You know, and most people don't realize it. They just know him as the Klipsch horn guy, which is why we're all here. But the museum dedicates to all of his doings, and it's terrific. If you get a chance to get to Hope, Arkansas, visit the museum, please.
Please, yeah,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely.
I mean, it is. I mean, no, you hit the nail on the head. Everybody knows Paul's speakers and the Klipsch and stuff, but oh my gosh, he was definitely a genius, and I had the honor of working with him. And yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and so the Klipsch book will probably not all go into print. It's something we're going to serialize, and the images that we're using are often shared or donated images from the museum. So it will be it will be a digital only version, but who knows? Someday we may decide to release a book, but there's no plans for that right now. But there's so much going on at the museum. But absolutely follow klipschmuseum.org. That's the website that'll get you to everywhere you need to go. But again, YouTube and Facebook, like and subscribe and get that stuff in your inbox every week. So what's amazing is that we've already had 20 entries during the first 5 minutes of the show, guys. So thank you so much for everybody who.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yep. And so the museum is the museum free or paid? Is it paid admission?
Well, it depends. If Hunter and Jenny are there, they're going to charge you. But if I'm there, no, I'm not going to charge you. I'm kidding.
No. It's a free tour. It is a free tour.
Is it at least lunch?
Yeah, we might get lunch out of it.
Right, with some fajitas, my kind of fajitas.
But it's by appointment only, and we do accept donations as well for the tour. So, but we do appreciate anybody who wants to stop by and take the tour. It's somewhat exhaustive just from the amount of information. Yeah. But if you're a hi-fi nut, this is where it happened. This is where the spark started.
I'm gonna add my 2 cents real quick. When we would train new salespeople in Hope, Arkansas, in the 90s and 2000s, that was required, and I led that group. Okay, so all those years, I would always pick up something new, and it's impossible to just get it all in the first pass. And when you're there and you see these artifacts of history, you will immediately be impacted by the spirit of invention that it represents, because you'll see that it wasn't just in acoustics. All kinds of areas of technology were being developed and invented. And those early times in the 20th century, the Nobel Prize winning scientists were dedicating their brains and all the resources to audio, to acoustic development, and the metallurgy, the dedication, the cost no object approach. From Bell Labs, American Telephone and Telegraph, Western Electric, all these great big companies that focused on it. And then you see these artifacts that are a result of it. And then you get the spirit of Paul Klipsch, who was the spirit of an inventor, and kind of, his own guy. He marched to his own drum beat. Just the location of Hope, Arkansas says it all, because you had New York and the East Coast, you had the West Coast, and then you had Paul in the middle, and he did his own thing, and it lives to this day. Just yesterday, I was explaining, what is that? Is somebody opening up a toolbox? Do you hear that?
Yeah. I don't know where that sound's coming from. Oh,
what is that?
It's Roy.
You have indigestion, Roy? What's going on?
But anyway. I think you're right, Mark. You're exactly right. One of the things, the power of ingenuity that really made me understand what was happening there at the museum, was that when Paul was developing his ideas, even the concept for highly efficient, low distortion loudspeakers, the tools and the measurement capability wasn't even there. So he was building the tools to build the speakers. So that's, you're talking about the dawn of hi-fi.
Yeah. He impacted the rest of the hi-fi industry with his discoveries and what was really relevant to great sound and true to life sound, identifying types of distortion that really matter. Everybody's interested in total harmonic distortion. He identified modulation distortion, transient distortion, all of these things that really, really affected it. Does it sound real, or does it sound like a system trying to sound real, and it all is true today. Yeah. And I'll just add this real quick. Just recently we've been involved in some new areas of business for the company, but I've told the story of Paul Klipsch because it does start with him and it stops with him. You know, all the products that we do, full circle, they all hold true to what he established for our company. And it comes back to this man and this audio legend. And we're so fortunate, all of us, you know, in the company today through the decades, because we're carrying that torch. You know, it's the time of the Olympics, but we're carrying the torch for Paul Klipsch in audio. It's been an honor and a pleasure to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to mention that, you know, the museum, in addition to providing all this historical imagery that we see on the website when we talk about Paul Klipsch or talk about any of these legendary loudspeakers, the museum also owns the intellectual property for the marks, the PWK seal, some of those kinds of things. So what the museum has done, if you go to klipschmuseum.org, is they have put together a web store where you can get the logos of the classic logos and the classic statements, like the bullshit buttons and those kinds of things. But you can get them on shot glasses, and you can get the original. They're working on the original PWK tie, the bullshit tie, but lots of T-shirts, lots of hoodies and pullovers, even huge framed pictures or posters of things like the original Heresy ad. Those kinds of things are available through the museum to generate cash for the museum's operating expenses. So we really appreciate you guys linking to or clicking on klipschmuseum.org and going to the store, or it's just klipschmuseum.org/store to get to it.
Yeah, and understand that the museum is a nonprofit, completely separate organization. We are not financially associated with the Klipsch Speaker Company. We are a standalone organization, nonprofit,
that is preserving the legacy of that Klipsch Speaker Company.
And we have to get Roy back, because I know you guys want to talk about the new state of the art. The new state of the art.
Yes.
And that's what Paul Klipsch brought in the early 20th century, and we're in the early 21st century, and we're continuing that development of the new state of the art. And what is a powerful message is that we're bringing the state of the art to our heritage products. Think about that. You know,
yes.
How cool is that? You know,
and what that actually means, you know?
It's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool.
So with that, Roy, let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about what these two new heritage products are going to be about.
Well, I just I've been reading some of the and it can be you talk about indigestion, Mark, earlier. I read some of the comments on other forums, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. Look, there's a reason that the only reason that we're updating the La Scala and the K horn is because the K401 horn mold was wearing out. Okay. And I thought to myself, I said, self or Mr. Bonehead, if we're going to go through the trouble of spending money on a horn tool, and Mr. K had already approved Tractrix, and this is really the only exponential horn we have in the lineup, why don't we tool a Tractrix horn? And that's the only reason that we got to this. It isn't because we just decided, okay, we're going to do another. So it was kind of out of necessity. But there's some stuff that we're doing now that was born in the Jubilee that we can definitely put into the La Scala and to the K horn. A new Tractrix horn. It needed to get infected with the mumps. Wide dispersion phasing plug. A 3-inch titanium diaphragm compression driver. And you know why, Mark? Because we can. Okay. And so with all that and the ability to use a DSP, I thought to me it was a no-brainer, and that's good because I have a small brain. So to me, it's just one of those things that was just kind of and so I started talking, to people about this, that we should go down this path, and of course, Mark wanted to know if he could get a K horn in a truck, and I said no, but we can try. Right, bro?
Yeah.
And so it does. I mean, it has. I mean, and Mark, earlier you said, we're we're bringing some neat tech, some acoustic stuff into the K horn and La Scala. You know why? Because they freaking deserve it. Just because the Jubilee is there, the Cornwall and Forte and the Heresy have it, and the without the Klipsch horn, we wouldn't be here. That's the bottom line.
One point that I would make, Roy, is that when the media that was being played back with the early Klipsch horn reached a point that it actually extended beyond the two-way of the Klipsch horn, Paul Klipsch went out and got him a tweeter and added that to the Klipsch horn and said, we're going to follow so that we can have the best possible experience. And I feel that that's what we've done. So, in addition to the stuff that you're talking about, we're also talking about the possibility of making this sucker active, right? From a crossover standpoint.
Yep. And we did have and Mark said, we need to talk to some dealers. And I said, you know what, you're right. So let's talk to some dealers. And so so Mike and Mark and I, we talked to some heritage dealers, and I the Klipsch horn and the Scala are three-way speakers. And I totally, and Jubilee is a two-way speaker. You're going from 2 to 4 channels. On La Scala and Klipsch horn, you're going to go down from 2 channels to 6 channels. And so one of the ideas is can we design a passive network for these speakers? And let me tell you, I already got kind of an idea. I was talking to our supplier of networks. These suckers are going to be just a little bit big, and you know what? They should be, because I wanted to get them as close as I can to a DSP, and it's going to require 2 boards that are 10 inches by 12 inches. Now, we might have to make a cabinet for them. I don't know. Okay. So they will come with a passive, but the way we're going to configure it, and we've gone round and round and round with Ryan and Andy. How do you sell a speaker that's got a passive in it and then offer the active and then make it easy to convert to an active? Well, that's why they pay me the little bucks, and we've come up with a way to do that. So initially, the Klipsch horn and the Scholar, you can buy them with the passive. You want to upgrade to the active, then you remove. Is it what did I say, Mark? 27 wires? No, it's 6 wires, and then you can convert them over and use them with your DSP.
Yeah,
so
6.
I think. Wait, let me count, because Coors makes me really bad at counting. Let's see.
So what will the active DSP do? What will that provide?
Well, the only thing that you cannot do in a passive, that that you can do with an active, up to about 0.5 milliseconds, 500 micros. It's really hard to design in a network that kind of delay. And so in a Klipsch horn, a Klipsch horn is like, in order to adjust for crossover point between the K horn and the mid range, it's about 4.5 milliseconds. On a Klipsch horn, on a Scala, it's about 2.4 milliseconds. That's a lot of time, and that's something you cannot do in a passive. But what we can do is divide it into that little band and try to get the phase to be where it adds up acoustically. So ultimately, and one of the reasons that because in 1992, Matt, Carrie, you watching, bro? Carrie and I start, because of cinema and all this other stuff, we started playing with Electro Voice. An Electro Voice DSP, which was one of the best sounding DSPs that I'd heard up to that time. Before that, everything else just sounded really granular, really, just really weird. And we decided, hey, let's do an active Klipsch horn. In 92, bro.
Wow.
And we showed it to Mr. K. Mr. K was listening, and it was the funniest response I can always remember. He said, "What did you do to that speaker?" I said, "Why, sir? Sir, don't hit me. Don't hit me." And really what it boiled down to was just a time delay. You know what? If I can take a DSP and a passive network and take out the arrival times of the three sections and have the same frequency response, and it's not subtle. It's just not subtle anymore. It becomes very cohesive. It becomes very detailed in your sound stage. And so, but I understand, there's that step. We go from the Cornwall and jump over, go to the Jubilee, the Cornwall fully passive. We go to the Jubilee, fully active. And I understand that, actually Mark, after he had about, I think it was 18 beers, right, Mark? After he had 18 beers with me, he finally hit my head enough that I said, you know what, you're right. We have to provide a pathway, right? We start off with the passive. And then if people want to go to the active and gain that extra by buying the DSP, then we make it easy for them to upgrade it.
Yeah. Well, because there's still that group that is passionate about, their lower powered single-ended triode amps, and the beautiful simplicity of those amps with Klipsch, right? So still make that available, get the advantages and the benefits of all the R&D that Roy has pulled together with, the Tractrix horn technology, wide dispersion phase plug, improved drivers, it's 21st century materials, technology. So those improvements are real and they're there. But if you want to down the road, take it to the next level, you can. And the form factor of the Scala is cool. The form factor of the Klipsch horn is unique. It utilizes
absolutely.
It's unique, and there are some rooms that are just magical with K horns in it. And then you've got Jubilee. So you've got these different flavors, but the same science that delivers undeniable, unstoppable dynamic range with flat linear amplitude response. You combine those things with low distortion. That's why nothing out there can do what we can do with our.
And
our
now if you add phase and time coherence as the icing on the cake.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. I mean, to me, and you know what? I mean, and no pun intended, but I can be a bonehead sometimes. And so I'm going like, no, Mark, I don't want to do a pass. No, Mark. And you know what? I thought, Mark. Okay, Mark, just go like this, Mark.
No, let me turn the speaker up. Hold on. Okay, go.
No, ready? Mark was right. We have to provide, a little bit of a, because we're going from 2 channels to 6 channels, and that's not, that's not trivial. It's not.
So tri-amp each side.
Oh yeah. Now when you hear that, if our dealers show it with 6 channels of amplification, I think you're gonna be hooked, and you'll probably start selling drugs just to get them.
On that
back to the 60s.
So on that note, I know Mike, you have had a chance to listen to these, and you've heard these speakers. Can you give us your initial impression? And then I have a couple of special guests that are going to weigh in on what they thought of the speakers.
Well, the first time I heard the active La Scalas, was about 14 months ago. Roy had the prototypes at our national sales meeting down in Florida, and I sat back and I listened to them and understand that I've been listening to Klipsch speakers since the early 70s.
Well, Mike, but that's when you could actually hear, right?
What? Yeah, there is a little bit of I can't deny there's a little bit of that going on.
Mr. Bass Player.
Sit him up, knock him down.
But how I explain this to people is listening and hearing is comparable to seeing and looking. Someone that's well trained in fine arts may need glasses, but they still appreciate the art better than someone that doesn't appreciate art. And the same way, I don't hear as well as I used to, but I listen better than I ever did. So I
we're going to ask Theta that. Can we ask Theta that?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Drummer.
Right. Oh my God. I don't do it every day.
The first time I heard him, I forget who I was sitting next to. I said, those sound just like La Scalas that I've always heard, but they don't sound like La Scalas. They have all of the things that I expected: the dynamics, the transient response, the cleanliness in the bass. They did everything that a La Scala has always done, but there was a level of finesse and articulation that you wouldn't expect from a La Scala. They just have been elevated to another league.
It's time for that. I mean, it's time. It's 2024. Somebody made a comment about digital or DSP, but high resolution processing, it's time. I'm working on a project or projects, as you guys know, that requires very sophisticated digital sound processing and time alignment for making multiple drivers sound homogeneous as one for musical presentation. You know what I'm talking about. We won't get into that right now. But when you
I know. Wait. I want to go ahead, Mark.
All I'm saying is it's time. It's time for this level of sophistication. Hey, you know what? The Jubilees already say that. We don't need to beat around the bush. I mean, the sauce is there. It's already there. The secret sauce is out. It's just a matter of delivering it in other areas.
Well, let's bring in. You know what, Mark? Really, to that point, is it took some time to get the algorithms for the software on DSP. To do these things so that it can get to the point where it finally begin to get natural. When I remember I was looking for a new drum kit, and I was intrigued with digital drums, but they sounded so weird. Okay, I mean, it just really sounded so weird. And me and my son would go into the same music store, for about 5 years, and we walked in there, and the guy told me, "Roy, you got to listen to these drums," and I'm like, No, I'm not convinced. So me and because I already heard too many, and they just sounded so they didn't sound like a snare, right? So me and my son were walking toward the bass room because he was a bass player, Mike, and the guy hits the snare, and I stop in my tracks and I turn back and I go, "Don't tell me that was an electrical kit or electronic drum." And he goes, "Yeah, it was." And I got intrigued. You know why? Because
it got there.
The sophistication of the software, and kudos to those guys that worked on the sampling and the programming, and to get it to the point where it does sound good. Electro Voice to me actually was Dynacord. They used to make it for Electro Voice. When I heard that DSP, I heard so many that it just didn't sound good until I heard that, and then Then it became really obvious to me why these guys in cinema were using DSP. Now we're talking about presentations of movies, right? These elaborate soundtracks, right? And voice tracks and surround and all this, and they're using DSP. And it became pretty obvious to me why, because it was there at that point.
Awesome.
Well, we're more than 3 decades later, and Matt Summers is exercising unbelievable self-control because he lives in that world with.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. Hey Matt, and those songs you made, I hate that you called them what you did. I'm not going to say it. But thank you for them tracks, bro. Oh my gosh, when I showed those for the the Heritage, oh my gosh, everybody's going like, what? And everybody got their phone out, right, trying to get. So here's a little microphone on the phone, and somebody goes,
Trying to get
"That's
the SPL read.
C0. That's C0," and I'm like, "You, sir, get some extra fajitas tonight."
Well, just be thankful that Matt didn't detune a banjo to 15 hertz.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and what Roy's referring to is that we made some demo cuts for him in the studio that would have a fundamental tone of around 15 hertz, 14 hertz to be able to test the low frequency range of some of the products we were working on. I really am glad that you like those, and I'm excited to see what you'll ask me to do next. Something maybe above the range of human hearing. But
E0, also known to take care of kidney stones, right?
Yeah, exactly. The brown note.
And for all you motorheads, E0, we're not talking about ethanol-free gasoline. We're talking about.
Well, let's take a minute. I'd like to bring in two special guests that we have. I'd like to add Mark Fragnito and Bill Hendricks, who have attended Roy's classes and listened to these speakers. Hey, Mark. Hey, Bill. It's nice to see you guys. And I would like to you guys give some impression of what you thought about the new Lascalas and Klipsch horns.
Well, first, I think we need to back up a little bit. My first trip to Hope in modern times was 2007 to the first of the Jube Fest. And we listened to the Jubilees then that were DSP normalized, if you will. And as you see behind me, I bought a pair of those, but I had a challenge with space for a center channel. So Roy put together the DSP amplifier for my center channel. That was what we dubbed a Jube Scala. So it was a Jubilee bass bin with a 510 driver on top with a K69. So that was kind of the first iteration of what we heard when we went to Subfest. Back up a few months ago, our journey to Hope again was to listen to the new horn-loaded subs. And in my theater system with the Jubilees that I think are extraordinary, I had an 884 subwoofer. The 884 is an 18-inch bass reflex subwoofer, did not have the speed of a horn-loaded bass. So I would leave it on for movies and special effects like that. But I was listening to music. I'd always turn off the 884 because it added a muddiness that was not present in the Jubilees. The Jubilees were fast, they were tight, and they were deep. Now we fast forward to the next Jube Fest with the new Jubilees, with all of Roy's new technology and patent in that. And we have that deep, low bass that the underground Jubilees did not have. And we have a whole new world in the 402 with a new driver and the new phase horn. And it is the absolute ultimate speaker. So now we go to Subfest to hear this technology applied in a subwoofer. And we listened to the new Jubilees in the morning, and in the afternoon, we went in and listened to what were the nines, as I recall, with the new subs. And that was really good. But then in the afternoon later, we went back to the lab, and the Lascalas were there. And we knew they were something special because it was a white Tractrix horn, and I didn't see the traditional K55 on a 401 hanging out or the K400 hanging out the back of the Lascala. And I've owned numerous pairs of Lascalas, have used Lascalas for PA, multiple Lascalas on a side driven by DC 300 amps back in the day. And I am very familiar with the Lascala. So we sat down to listen to the sub, and Matt's incredible new tunes that we were able to listen to started. And instantly I knew this is something special. This was different from any Lascala I had heard before. It had the airiness and the openness and the detail of the Tractrix horn, but there was something else that we didn't know about too. Roy had DSP'd this like he did the Jubilee back in the beginning. So that made a huge difference in the sound quality coming out of the Lascala. Bill Walco and Tim Smith and I were all sitting in the front row and started playing the Lascalas before we ever got to the deep bass part. And all three of us looked at each other and thought, wow, this is incredible. This is something special. So we really enjoyed that. Now, a 15 hertz fundamental wave rolls across the floor and past our body. I've never experienced anything like that with a subwoofer. So that combo is extraordinary. I was privileged to be able to hear that.
Mark? Fantastic, and thank you for the great comments. Mark, what was your impression?
Well, first of all, thanks for the background,
Bill. I want to make sure that Bill really liked it. You really like it, Bill?
I thought it was just okay.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It's
okay,
not as
Mark
good
13.
It's not as good as your LS7.
We won't talk about that right now. Okay.
So my background is right about the same as Bill's. I've been listening to Klipsch speakers since I was a young man, and I've got a house full of them. And I started coming to Klipsch for these different events right around the same time as Bill. And I think that's when we met at one of these Jube Fests in either 2006 or 2007. So I'll just fast forward and say I've got a house full of Klipsch. I have La Scalas, I've got underground Jubes, and I've got a full four-way MCM with 884 and 684 subs. And so I'm familiar with the sound of and handling the equipment for DSP and setting that up and listening to it and understand what it does. And when I first saw these La Scalas and I saw that 2-inch horn, I thought Roy turned them into a two-way at first. And I couldn't see the tweeter in the back when I was looking inside. And I said, what the heck is this? And when we finally started listening to them, oh yeah. Those first of all, my La Scalas don't hold a candle to those. And they're just so crisp and clear. And the louder they get, that mid-range horn really approaches what I think my underground Jube sound like. Not exactly, not quite, but they're almost there. And so that's what you get. Extreme crispness, clarity. The high frequencies were dancing off the ceiling in the listening room. Absolutely seamless. And the louder we listened, the clearer, the better it was. And, you could just really see, like everyone's saying, this is something very, very special. I'll tell you, when you added the sub, so there was 3 units there at the front of the room, I would close my eyes and I could not detect that there was a second bass source. It was so seamless. It was just a huge sound stage top to bottom. And I went from side to side of the room. I was in the front row. At times I was in the back row, and the dispersion was very even. And, of course, he's using the same DSP equipment as he is for the Heritage Jubilee. So you have to know what to expect there. It's going to be excellent. So I'll just close by saying, hey, look, whoever wins these, let me tell you, if you have an option to get the sub, by all means, get the sub, because it really lends a huge low-end extension to what we all know a La Scala would benefit from. And I can't say enough about the combination of how that all fits together and how seamless it is. It's probably the best speakers I've heard in that room, other than the Jubilees, the Heritage Jubilees. I think that even with the sub there, it might have been better music than when we had the underground Jubes. Very, very close. So you've got some smaller speakers that are approaching the performance of much bigger speaker systems and bigger horns. So, I mean, just so well done. And
wow.
Thank you for having me here, by the way.
Do you see Chief Bonehead kind of you're pacing? He's waiting to jump in. Those subs.
Oh, go ahead. I'm all set.
Yes,
those subs.
Open up the can of worms.
Subs are Jubilee technology. Okay, take it away.
Well, Michael Margolo said it. I think he kind of nailed it. He said, "This is as close to Jubes as you're going to get."
Yeah.
When you listen to those Scalas and the Heritage sub, because the Heritage sub you guys listened to, actually that was now the extra large gets down to about 14, and the other one gets down to about what I call the large, it gets down to about 18. That sub with those Lascalas is basically the frequency response of the Jubilee. And so, yeah, I want to make this disclaimer. Bill and Mark would not pay for their opinions.
No.
Guys, but guys, that package is on its way. Okay.
Okay. That extra case
Yeah,
of
let's
beer.
just get that out there now. You know? It's like the commercials. These are real patients.
Yeah.
They're not actors.
And Mark's absolutely right. There was a seamless connection between the sub and the new La Scala that gets us. We were all talking afterward, and we think you get 89% of the way to a Jubilee for 2/3 the price.
Well,
I think it was 88.7.
Yes, it was.
Actually,
I was rounding up.
765. You forget, but I round up.
So
I also want to make sure. I want Bill and Mark to make sure that how big is the listening room? Because there's a lot.
But they're not just some random guys off the street. Bill and Mark are both very active in the museum.
There's a lot of people that say,
yeah,
as hopefully other folks will do that are watching tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
The listening room is what, 18 by 26?
Yeah, it's actually 16 by 25, and because there's just a lot of misconceptions about you need this huge room,
right?
And it's not. I just
no.
You know what? I'm taking up a flag. The flag says, "The smaller your room, the bigger the horn."
Yeah, exactly. It's better control in the room. And the other thing, everybody thinks you got to play everything really loud to experience it. The great beauty of these speakers is you can play at very low listening levels and still have very uniform frequency response and fullness of sound, especially in the deep end too.
Yeah.
And well, I remember Gutenberg used to tell me about that. That one of the things he liked about all the Klipsch stuff that he heard on the Heritage was even when he was listening at night, when his wife was asleep and he didn't want to get divorced, he would have it low. And he says, Roy, I mean, at low volumes, you still get the impact.
Yeah.
You still get the detail. Yeah. You still get
We've all been there, by the way. Our articulation, resolution at low volume, which makes music pleasant at normal volumes. And obviously the Fletcher Munson curve, makes music exciting when you turn the volume up, that the ratios change between deep bass and mid-range sensitivity and high frequencies. But at low volume, they're joyful. And you know what? Bill and Mark, you guys made the comment, something along the lines of there's no bass like horn-loaded bass. And
right.
that is so true. And this community gets that, but it's something to be discovered, beyond traditional direct radiator loudspeakers. And this was available in 1946, which is just what's kind of mind blowing. But, it's like, you guys know, and it's like that, if you know kind of thing, but continuing to get that message out, and then hearing is believing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you guys for kind of putting a bow on that for us, Mark and Bill, for sure. I am noting the time, and we got to keep moving along a little bit. So I want to have some quick lightning round questions from the group. I want to ask a couple of things, and probably Roy, you're going to be the one to answer this, but feel free to jump in, anybody. But just let's get some quick answers. First of all, we're talking about the new La Scala AL6 launching at the beginning of the year, and the new Klipsch horn AK7 launching at the beginning of the year as well. And then Roy also mentioned the Heritage subs, which will come out later next year, TBD at this point, but they are fully developed at this point. We are working forward. We're looking forward to launching those. So a couple of questions real quick. Will the AL6 crossover have a subwoofer out?
Yes, it will. But the Heritage sub will have, and actually even the RP subs, they have their own crossovers, and so it's just a kind of a through feed, and you choose your crossover. Now, particularly for the La Scala and the Heritage, what I want to do is, you know, these guys are talking about that blend. There will be a specific output or a switch or however my buddy Spitz wants to do it. He doesn't know it yet, but that's his job. Um, so that for Heritage Sub, there will be a particular position to put it in, but uh, any kind of subwoofer has its own amplifier that has its own crossover too, and
Awesome.
so yes, it will. Yeah,
That's great.
I'm kind of wordy, but yes.
No. Totally makes sense. An estimated timetable if it's going to happen for the previous version upgrade kit.
Mr. Bergolo.
You know where that came from.
Oh yeah, Mr. Bergolo. You know, he at the last Chief Bonehead class, he asked me about that. Because of the way, you know, this kind of came about, because of the way that we had to go on and tool a new horn. For AO5 owners and AK6 owners, there will be a upgrade kit in the vein of Mr. Klipsch.
Fantastic. That's great.
Mr. Whenever he came out with new stuff, he always wanted to make sure, if it was possible, to offer an upgrade kit. And with an AO5 and an AK6, it's definitely possible. I would say that anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 or 8 months after we introduce them, because the reality of it is, it's really not. If we have the parts, we got the parts, right? And we can make a kit. And so I tend to be one of those guys that agrees with Mr. K. You make those available as soon as possible, because it's kind of like with the Forte 4. You know, we took our freaking time, sweet time on it, and I don't want to do that again. I want to make sure it comes out as soon as possible.
Excellent. And then I was looking at some of the other questions, and we've answered most of the other questions that have been asked. But you know, Travis mentioned maybe we do a special session of this that's just a Q&A for Klipsch Museum members or something that really want to know and get into the nitty gritty about some of this stuff. There's so many more avenues and rabbit holes we could go down with this. But I really do need to move on because we're probably going to have to wrap up here pretty soon. I want to mention about the Watermelon Fest. Sorry for the right.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it. So the Klipsch Watermelon Festival is happening. Let's see. What is the dates on that?
It's this Thursday through the end of Saturday.
That's right.
Whatever numbers those are.
Yep. And so what we're being asked to do is visit the Klipsch Corner at the Hope Watermelon Festival. We have lots of great things planned. The good times to swing by the Klipsch Corner is at the top of each hour from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They're going to have a Science of Sound demonstration. And then at 5 p.m., we're going to be giving away a pair of Pro Media 2.0 Bluetooth speakers, Klipsch Pro Media speakers. So that's a great little giveaway that you can hand carry out of there. The booth is really open Thursday starting at noon or from noon until 6 p.m. and then Friday and Saturday 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. So please swing by. You can join the museum while you're there. You can see what we have to offer, and you can support it.
Matt, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get more of a local presence. I mean, for a while, Klipsch was like the major, job guy in Klipsch, and there are a lot of associates that are there, and Jenny's done a great job in reaching out to those people, and getting them to volunteer, or just even to to share stories about when they worked for Klipsch, how weird Mr. K was. I mean,
there's a whole episode just on that we could have.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so many crazy things. Well, and I think swing by if you're in town. Swing by. We really do appreciate the local support. We're glad to be part of the local Hope community and be dug in there. As far as the live stream tonight, I really want to say I appreciate the five of you guys being on this. We've got some other people that we need to thank. I want to thank Glenn Mosby, Brittany Kelly, Travis Williamson, and Ian Moore, who are handling things behind. Denise Cooper, who does a million things for the museum, does a great job. Really appreciate all those guys. And I'd like to also thank the Klipsch Loudspeaker Company for donating the land and all of the artifacts for the Klipsch Museum of Audio History when we did that in 2016. So thank you so much, Klipsch, for getting this off the ground. We need to do another one of these, but if you can, please click the link, support the museum, get entered for a chance to win these incredible speakers. And I think that's everything that we had on our agenda, and we are at 8 o'clock, guys. Any final words on that?
You know what, man, I do agree. I think maybe we have another one, just where where we all get on the hot seat, especially Mark, since he has an asbestos butt, so we can get on there and just get all these questions out there.
Yes,
get all the questions out there, because hearing is believing, and if I'm worth a crap in all the stuff that Mr. K taught, and with these guys, verifying all the stuff that we're doing, to make sure that I'm not so full of crap. I think that Mr. K would be happy.
Well, and I'm gonna jump in here for a second, and Roy, I don't know if everyone knows, but Roy is not only our chief bonehead, but he's also the chairman of the board at the Klipsch Museum. So please, please, please support the Klipsch Museum of Audio History.
Amen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And for the 50 of you, the 50 new entries that we just have, thank you so much for supporting. That's a great run. Please continue to support the museum.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks everybody for joining tonight. We got to rock and roll. We will have another one of these soon. We'll announce new Boneheads classes and all the things that the museum's got coming up. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And enjoy the listening lounge.